Amsterdam, 1964. Across the board sits Mikhail Tal, the magician, the world champion who turns chess into a knife fight. Facing him is a young challenger named Georgy Tringov. Over the next half hour, Tal will offer him a pawn, then a knight, then watch him take both with a smile. Every gift is poison. By the end, Tringov will have more pieces and no king. So take the young man's chair. You are black tonight, sitting where Tringov sat, and the most dangerous attacker who ever lived is being strangely, suspiciously generous. The first 10 moves blur past. They blitz out a perk, a known modern setup, the black bishop crouching on the long diagonal as both men rattle off the same page from memory. Pawns to the center, knights out. Tal's bishop swinging to g5, and the black queen sliding to b6 to eye a tender pawn on the queen side. None of it costs a thought. The fight only starts when the book runs out. Now the first real decision. Tal calmly tucks his queen onto d2, readying his long castle and leaving the pawn on b2, hanging like fruit on a low branch. He is not defending it. He is daring Tringov to reach. And Tringov reaches. His queen swings down to b2 and snaps off the pawn, a free pawn against the world champion deep in white's own camp.
A free pawn off Tal. This looks too easy.
Tal does not panic. His rook lifts to b1 to shoulder the queen away, and Tringov shuffles her to a3, clutching the prize. The queen is fed, but she is also marooned on the rim, miles from her own king. Tal has lost a pawn and gained exactly what he wanted, the enemy queen out of the game.
Let him push my queen around. I'm the one a pawn up.
While the black queen sulks on the edge, Tal builds. His light bishop swings to c4, glaring straight down at the f7 square in front of the black king. Tringov drags his queen further up to a5, still hungry, still far from home, and Tal simply castles his king into safety. One army is coiling, the other has its strongest piece exiled on the rim. Tringov tries to wall off the danger. He pushes a pawn to e6 to blunt the bishop. Tal's other rook joins the file aimed at the center, and Tringov spends a move on a 6. A slow little pawn poke that does nothing for his bare king. It is the first inaccuracy, a wasted breath, and against Tal a wasted breath is expensive. Tal repositions his dark bishop to f4, leaning on the center, and Tringov makes his first real error of the game. He shoves a pawn to a5, trying to gain space and shut the lines, but it does the opposite. It cracks the center wide open with his king still stranded on the back rank, and it hands Tal the d-file, a gun barrel his queen and rook will aim straight at the black king. A mistake.
He has nothing concrete. I'm still up material. Open it and trade his attack away.
The pawns crash together. Tal captures on e5, Tringov recaptures on e5, and the floodgate is open. The center is bare, every line points at the black king, and Tringov is still, by the count of wood, a pawn ahead. He thinks he is winning. Now Tal lays the trap. His queen steps boldly into d6, right in the heart of Tringov's camp, and from there she leaves the knight on c3 hanging, undefended, begging to be taken. It looks like Tal has blundered a piece. It is bait.
A whole knight just hanging there. A piece and a pawn up against Tal. What can he even do?
Tringov cannot resist. His queen pounces from a5 all the way to c3 and swallows the knight whole. A whole piece on top of the pawn. But look where she is now, deep in white's half, a long march from her own monarch, and that monarch is suddenly all alone. This is the mistake that loses the game. There was a humble path here. Instead of gorging on the knight, Tringov could have just nudged the pawn, taking on f4 and keeping his pieces home to shield the king. Still winning material, but safe. He chose the knight, and the knight chose his grave. Tal refuses to chase the queen, refuses to grab anything back. Instead, his rook glides to d1, stacking his heavies on the d-file like cannon, the battery aimed at the squares beside the lonely black king. The trap is closing, and Tringov has not even noticed. Sensing something wrong at last, Tringov develops his knight to d7 to plug the holes around his king. It is the natural move. It is also the blunder, because it walks him straight into a mate Tal can now force from start to finish. Even here, on the cliff edge, there was a thread to grab. Pulling the dark bishop back to f6 would have thrown a body in front of the king and dragged the fight on. Tringov never saw it. He developed toward the danger instead of away from it.
Wait, I'm a piece up. That can't be right.
Here is the magic. The black king's last shield is the single pawn on f7. So Tal throws his bishop straight into it, capturing on f7 with check, smashing the door off its hinges. A whole bishop handed over to peel the cover off the king.
He gave up the bishop too. Why does this feel like drowning?
And this is exactly why the greed was fatal. A queen can stop almost anything, but only if she is near the danger. Tal hands over the bishop, knowing the one piece that could save the black king is the very piece Tringov greedily marched to the far side of the board. Stuffed with a pawn and a knight, that queen is stranded with no way back, and the richest army in the room cannot send a single defender home. The king must face the storm alone. Tringov has no choice. His king reaches out and takes the bishop on f7, and in doing so steps out from behind every wall, naked in the open air with the whole white army waiting. The hunt begins. Tal's knight springs to g5 with check, jabbing at the exposed king and herding him with no safe square to hide in. Tringov's queen sits marooned on the queenside, and his extra pieces, scattered and helpless, are only spectators to their own king's execution. The black king is driven back to e8, the only square left to him, shuffling home with nowhere to run and no one to help. And Tal delivers the final turn of the screw. His queen slides up to e6 with check, slamming the cage shut. The king is boxed in, the mate is coming move by forced move, and there is nothing on the board that can stop it. And there is truly no door left. Every retreat loses. The longest road is to crawl back to d8, but the knight leaps in to f7 with check, and now the king has one square in the whole world, c7. Then the queen drops to d6, and that is mate, a forced mate in two, and no piece in all of black's rich army can come home in time. A king with everything around him and nothing left to him. Tringov does not wait for the axe to fall. Staring at a mate he cannot escape, a piece up and utterly lost, he stops the clock and resigns. There is no checkmate struck on the board. There is only a young man who counted his treasure while his king was carried off. Tipping his own king before the end is spelled out. Mikhail Tal beats Georgy Tringov, Amsterdam 1964. The extra pawn was never a lead. The extra piece was never a lead. They were the hook, and Tringov swallowed both. With Tal, the pieces you win are sometimes the very ropes that hang you.